Kind of bad. Probably a little bit chiller today. Let's look at I got some interesting website that generate graphics. Looks super cool, so I want to try it and share with you. This Google Drive. It's the partial image. Oh, so many times it iterates. Oh. Well, 800 steps. Ugh, that was gross. Oh, I like this. I like this. Oh, I want to make a banner out of it. Maybe not. Intermediate safe. Partial images. You want to keep also like steps. I like cool day. Airship. Where's airship? Butterfly sky summer. Mm. So seriously running a Tesla. Running this on the Tesla, really. Just ignored it. Wow. I want to run this. That's cool. That's cool. Try it. Only tutorial. I'm gonna do it myself. Wait, this is Python. Instantly got 2 warning that my account is being used. Security alert. Why does depth model? So I think this is the generating engine. Midas, I remember as the god of greed. Greed, yeah. Oh, it's a king. Installing a library. Downloading the diffusion model. Shards, hash functions. Hey, welcome back, Ethereum Daddy. Cool. Actually, it's my first time using this environment. Never tried it before, but I saw this disco diffusion thing online and it generates some really cool art. So check it out. Trying to check it out and see if I can. No. So what do I set it to? Setting. Event phase reveal. I reviewed it before already. I think when I try to set up the camera, yeah, I was trying to set up the stream on Mac. I didn't have a virtual character, so I just face revealed. Also, I face revealed when I became a Twitch affiliate, but then I quit being a Twitch affiliate. Nah. is this? YouTuber streaming how to code and write mobile applications. Yellow color scheme. Run. Diffuse. Thank you, you too. Enjoy the study. It's really hard to study on a Friday night, let me tell you that. But we still gotta do it. Fight. Let's see here. How long are they gonna run? Looks like it starts drawing some stuff. Some place gets darker. What the fuck? That was sudden. That was so sudden. Let's do 10 more minutes before it finishes.
In this tutorial, we're going to look at the Diffusion notebook. Will be. Go ahead and hit save. Why don't we go ahead and open up 2 and look at the diffusion and clip model settings. So here's where you actually specify the model that you're going to use to generate images. Pretty much everyone that I've seen uses the 512. Obviously, it's a little bit higher resolution. You'll probably get some nicer images. GAN model. I'll get into some of the intricacies of it, but I think it actually produces some really nice, high-quality images. There's some other really nice things about this notebook that we'll cover as we go through it, but I'm also going to show you how to start with an initialized image. So in this tutorial, what we'll do is we'll take an initialized image, we'll use that as a starting point for running our diffusion model. It won't necessarily operate like a style transfer does, but it kind of has some similar ideas in that it sort of starts with the initial image and then changes it over time. So with that, let's get started. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to go over here and connect. Make sure your runtime is set to GPU. I believe by default it probably will be. Go ahead and hit save, and then we'll hit connect. So there are some tutorial elements here. There's a nice list of table of sort of various options, but as it notes, this is out of date as of V2. I found some of the things still exist and they're helpful to read and sort of understand, but hopefully I'll cover some of the bigger ones as we go through the notebook. So first off, let's just check to see what GPU we got. I have a V100. Again, this is probably because I'm on Pro Plus. If you're using something else, you might get a P100, a K80, a T4. I think the only one you might run into issues with is a K80 because it's like 12 gigabytes of memory, of VRAM, and that might run into issues depending on what size you're trying to generate for the image. Next, I highly recommend running this. You can turn it off if you're just demoing this. What this is going to do is it's going to create a folder in your Google Drive account, and it's going to save some of the model checkpoints there. That's really nice because sometimes with these models it can run pretty slowly. I'm going to use a really low-res version for this just so we've got it runs relatively quickly. But if you're running a bunch of batches, you definitely want to save the drive so you don't lose your work if your machine shuts down. The other thing is that if you choose to run this notebook again, it'll pick up the checkpoints on your diffusion model files that have been saved to drive. Makes setting up and running the notebook a little bit quicker. So I recommend running this if you can. I'm going to go ahead and run this. Connect to Google Drive. And we'll just click that account and hit allow. And while that runs, I'm just going to go ahead and click the each play icon here. And that's just going to set up and install a bunch of my defaults. So you'll see already here it's looking for some of the initialized folders and things, and I've already got those. If this is your first time running the notebook, it might need to build these and set up a little bit more, and it might take a little bit longer to get set up. Alright, so while that is running, why don't we go ahead and open up 2 and look at the diffusion and clip model settings. So here's where you actually specify the model that you're going to use to generate images. Pretty much everyone that I've seen uses the 512. Obviously, it's a little bit higher resolution. You'll probably get some nicer images out of it. I guess you could go ahead and try the 256 and see what that looks like, but in general, I see everyone uses the 512. I leave all of these checked on. The secondary model, I'm not entirely sure exactly what that does. I believe it might use a second model for clip or like use a second generator. You can kind of combine these models together and maybe get slightly better results. That's what all of these checkboxes are here. If you've done anything with clip before, you'll know that these are the names of different clip models. One of the things that people have found in the past, I don't know, 6 months or so is actually running multiple models during your losses using multiple models gets you better results. I think it's fine to just leave these 3 or 4 on. Obviously, the more of these you have running, the more memory it'll take, so you probably need a nice V100 if you're going to turn them all on. You might you'll get away with that, but you can try it anyway. I think we can start with just these 3 by default that were checked on, and maybe you want to play around and try turning on some other ones. This is only check this box if you're having issues with model downloads. I haven't experienced that yet, but you can try it. But for the most part, this is probably ready to go. So go ahead and hit play here. So I actually didn't change anything. I just want to talk through those settings. And now we've got the basic settings. So this is really where we want to do the most of our work, because we're going to do most of the setup for our model. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to click on the folder and I'm going to upload an image here. So I'm just going to go ahead and click this button, which allows me to upload an image. And I'm going to go to my desktop where I create a nice little image. See, I've got floral in it. So we open this. There's just a floral image. I recommend playing with a bunch of different starting images. I tend to like some of these contrasty black and white images, and we'll see why when we actually start running the diffusion model. But you can play with things. You get this, I believe. I need to check the size of this image, but this is, I believe, something like 360 by 720 or something. So we'll go ahead and upload this. And actually, while I'm here, let me just double click that and open and see what size that image is. So that is 540 by 360. So Before I talk about these two, I'm just going to put in this number so I can remember it, which was, what was it, 540 by 360. Okay, so first thing we want to do is we want to give our runtime a name. This is just going to basically create a folder in our Google Drive to allow us to save out images. I recommend creating a unique name so you just remember what it is. So we'll just do floral init demo. Steps. So steps is how long this model is going to run for. So
Wait,
each
I
step
didn't
you'll
add
have,
the
it'll generate an
image
image
to
and it'll process it to a clip at a very low cost,
initialize.
and then it'll run again and again and again. So it's going to be an iteration. The longer you run this for, first off, the longer it's going to take to run, it's going to be slower. So if you set it to 5,000 steps, it's going to take quite a while. The other thing is that the longer you run it, more likely the better results you get, but that's kind of like, you'll see diminishing returns on that. If you set it to 1,000 versus 2,000, 2,000 will likely get you some finer detail. But if you set it between 2,000 and 10,000, the detail is going to be very, very slight for the amount of like length of time it takes. So I recommend maybe starting with something like 500 or 1,000. And if you decide that I want a little bit more from it, I can play with that. So we'll start with 500. I've already gone ahead and set the width and the height. So this is how these are the dimensions of the image we're going to generate. And I want to set it to the same as my initialized image, just so it sort of kept the same dimensions and proportions. Clip guidance scale. This is the value. Basically, is how strong the clip guidance should work. This will also play in part next to the image settings. So I would just recommend leaving this at 5,000. Actually, we're going to leave all of these other settings at these values. I believe all of these are mentioned and discussed in that tutorial at the top. So if you do want to learn a little bit more about these, you can go ahead and do that. I've played with a couple of these a little bit, but I haven't found huge changes in my image generation, but you can check that out. One other note is that if you do find you're getting out-of-memory errors, you can try playing with this number, the cut and batches. If you make this like 2, you might get better, you might have it work on something like a K80, but in general, I would start by leaving it at 4 and see how it goes.
Oh. Looks really weird.
And then we've got initialized settings here. So we've got our initial image. So what I want to do instead of none is I want to replace it with my path here. So I'm going to click floral in the image. I'm going to right click on it and click copy path. And then I'm going to paste that path in here. So this should just point to your image. Initialize scale. So this is balanced out by this. So this is going to say, this value is how strong should the clip, the text prompt manipulate the image. And this is how strong should the initial image control the parameter. So let's just leave it at 5,000, 1,000 and see how it is. Now, the last thing we want to make sure we do, this is where it's kind of interesting how a diffusion model works. So a diffusion model starts with noise. It starts with like complete noise. And over the 500 steps that we've set it to here, it's going to become less noisy and more of what our image, our initialized image and our text prompt are. Because of that, if you leave this at 0, you will always start with noise. So what we actually want to do is we want to actually skip ahead a number of steps so that we start with this image and then begin to pick out the text prompt. So the author of this notebook was kind enough to sort of respond and said, like, a good value to start with is half of your total steps. So we'll start with 500 steps, but we'll actually jump to 250 and use this image at that point. This will make a little more sense when we actually see it running, but I highly recommend that you just start with this value. You could play with this a little bit more after you sort of like iterate a little bit and learn a little bit more about this. So we've got all our settings here, so we're going to go ahead and hit play. That makes sure we're just saving it to our runtime. And then we are going to come down here. For this video, I'm not going to cover any video settings, so I believe we can just hit play here, and this will just save all the presettings in here, so it won't work with animation at all. Extra settings. So there are a couple things in here. Intermediate save, we could play with this. This will basically, as the model runs, if we want to save out 3 middle iterations, this is a good thing if you're doing a really long run, because maybe you don't actually like the 5,000th step of your image. Maybe what you really want is the 3,000 steps. What you might want to do in here is set your intermediate saves to 4. So I think they'll save 1 at 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000. In this case, it would be 100, 200, 300, 400, and then 500, which is the final step. Because I'm doing such a short run, I'll just save this as intermediate steps to be 1. So we'll get 250 and we'll get 500. And I'll save to a subfolder. We can leave supervised sharpening off, but this is something where after the image finishes, you can do a little bit of sharpening on it, whatever you want to do there. If you're using initialized images, make sure no matter what this is turned off. If this is turned on, it's going to override your image setting, and you don't want that happening. So make sure that you have this unchecked. And we can skip the rest of this. Let's go ahead and run this. And then we're almost finished here. So this next item here is actually we put in the text prompt. I've covered a lot of videos on how to do text prompts and text prompt engineering. So I won't cover a lot of that. I will recommend that you go check out some of the other videos on how to do text prompt engineering, which is basically like putting in some hacks into your text prompt so that you get slightly nicer images or a certain stylistic kind of style to it. The interesting thing to note here is that part of this, you can set up multiple text prompts. I would assume this is more for the animation method. So this number here says, starting at what step in the image do you want to change out the prompt? So I actually don't want any prompts to change. I'm just going to use one prompt. So I'm going to comment out 100 here, and I'm just going to use 0. And let's come up with a prompt for this. So you can also pass in multiple prompts using this comma. Like basically everything goes in a string, and you can comma separate them. I'm only going to use one prompt for this, and let's just go ahead and put this in here. So let's see. So why don't we do this? Why don't we do a colorful pattern of goldfish? And then training on ArtStation. That seems fine. So training on ArtStation is a fairly popular text prompt or a text engineering prompt that kind of generates some like cool like RGB-ish like phase shifted color in it. So basically what I want to do is I want to take my image here, and what I'm hoping I can do is I can turn the flowers sort of into goldfish shapes. So let's see if this actually works. I have no idea if it will. So now that we've got this set up, we also want to turn off image prompt, which is already there. Image prompting is you can also prompt it by saying, I want my images to look more like this image. So that's different than the initialized image. Initialized images are what image I want to start with. An image prompt image is what image do I want my final output to look more like. It's noted here that image prompts work but aren't very good, so I'm just not going to cover it here, so it's already commented out. So now I'm set up here, so I can go ahead and hit play. And finally...
Wait. Oh. Okay, running. Interesting.
Finally, we're ready to get started here, so we can actually run the diffusion. So a couple notes here. So the display rate is how often my collab notebook is going to update my image. Because my image is running for 500 steps, if I set the display rate to 50, that means I'm only going to see, at 50, 100, 150, 200, 250, 300, up to 500. I like to set this a little bit lower if I'm going to actually sit around and watch it. It's just nice because it updates a little bit faster for you. I would say if you're going to walk away and let it run overnight, you could probably set it to 100, 300, whatever, and it'll be fine. End batches is how many images you want to create. So if you want to create 10 different images that you can sort of test, because again, remember there's some noise built into these models, and see how the noise, randomness affects your images. You can set 10, and that'll generate 10 images. Now it'll take 10 times as long because you're generating 10 different images. So for this, I'm just going to set to 1, so we just generate 1 image. I have not turned on any of these other features yet, but I assume you could pick up from a previous run, other things like that. So maybe play around with these if you're interested in setting that. But this is a basic demo, so let's just go ahead and run this because I've now been talking for quite a while. So we'll just hit run, and you'll see here that we are now starting with our name, and we're starting at frame 0. And this usually takes a couple seconds to get started. And once it gets started, we should begin to see our images. Now, here's the funny sort of thing to remember is because we said we want to start our initialized image at 250 out of 500, what you're seeing here is that it actually jumps blurred out and a little bit noisy. And using that as the initialized image and running for 250 steps, or maybe running it for very long. So the truth is I'm running it for 500 steps. So I'll be back in just a minute. All right, so I let this run now for 500 steps, and here you'll see my final image. It's interesting because I actually thought as this was going, this fish here in the middle was looking really good, and then I walked away for 5 minutes and came back, and I don't like this image much more than the other one. So again, maybe I really need to work on the text prompt. But click in here, I should just see this final image. Nice looking image in 10 minutes. And if I were to play with different prompts, I might get a better image. But I like the look of being able to start with an initialized image.
I'm just gonna let this run. What's the other website? only 6. This one I'm gonna start seeing more. I'm gonna let it run. That's the stream for today. Let's see if I can post the results later.